Who would have thought that this game would actually have college football playoff implications? Number 12 Notre Dame and number 24 Navy will meet this weekend in New Jersey, where Notre Dame has to keep winning, practically has to win out to keep their playoff hopes alive, while Navy is hoping to keep their magical run alive by pulling off the massive upset and improve to 7-0. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Fighting Irish and the Midshipmen on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years, and already doing so again this year. One of the best marks in the entire country. We're hitting over 73% over the last few weeks in our best bet section. We're hitting over 64% in our best bet section on the year for NFL. So if you want to win big with us for one of the lowest prices in the country, for a full year-long subscription, something no other handicapper is going to give you, this is the place for you. Go check it out. Sign up today. Get the link down in the description below over on thegridironexpert.com. So Notre Dame and Navy has been a bit of a lopsided rivalry game, right? Notre Dame leads this series 13-1. 13-1 is what Notre Dame leads the series. They've won 6 straight over the Midshipmen. They've won 11 of the last 12. And 8 of those 11 wins have come by double digits, have come by at least 10 points. That includes last year's meeting in Ireland, where Notre Dame won 42-3, practically home field advantage for Notre Dame, right? But this game could be a little bit different. Obviously, Notre Dame is a top 15 team, still looks like a playoff team for many, but Navy has surprised a lot of people. Disappointing year in 2023. Thought they'd just be mediocre this year. The Midshipmen would be mid. That has not been the case. But we're taking a look at both sides of the ball here. We'll start on offense for Notre Dame. I think their offense has been mid. It has been disappointing. It has not been what we thought it would be. They ranked just 63rd in total offense, 398.6 yards per game. They are 17th in the country running the ball, over 209 rushing yards per game, but they're only averaging 189 passing yards per game. And when they added Riley Leonard in from Duke, we all kind of thought this passing game would take a little bit of a step back from last year, sure, but not nearly as bad. Notre Dame's passing offense really is almost non-existent. Leonard has thrown for over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, but then has rushed for 456 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's only 6 yards away from being the leading rusher on the season for Notre Dame. The leading rusher, of course, is Jeremiah Love, who's rushed for 462 yards and 7 touchdowns. So they practically have a two-headed monster in the backfield with their quarterback in Leonard and Love at running back. But this is a team that, needs to learn how to get a competent passing attack, needs to learn how to get more explosive plays in the passing game, because they may not need it this Saturday against Navy, but if Notre Dame wants to make the college football playoff, if they want to maybe make a run in the college football playoff, they're going to have to find a way to start throwing the ball and throwing it effectively. When you take a look at Navy, we know the passing game is not something they want to focus on, right? This is a Navy team that, like Army, like Air Force, wants to run the football, and they do it well. 4th in the nation, 274.8 rushing yards per game. Their new offensive coordinator, Drew Cronick, the former Mercer head coach, has done wonders with his offense. Again, even last year, kind of running a similar system, Navy did not put up these type of numbers, did not put up these type of points. 1 year can make a lot of difference. One coordinator can make a lot of difference, and that's absolutely been the case for the Midshipmen. But you look at them a little bit deeper. This Navy team has scored at least 34 points in every game they've played this year. They have won every game they've played this year by at least 12 points. And also, while the running game has been great, the passing game has surprisingly been more relevant and more of a factor. The Midshipmen are averaging over 160 passing yards per game. Notre Dame's only averaging 189, so it's not a huge difference between the two. But Navy obviously going to be a team that wants to beat you on the ground. They want to do that with their star quarterback in Blake Horvath, who has been phenomenal. 888 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, just 1 interception, 621 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. So 20 total touchdowns for Horvath this year. They have 5 players that have rushed for at least 100 yards on the season. Alex Texa being one of them, who has over 300 yards and 7 touchdowns. This is a very efficient team. This is a very disciplined team, just like Army is. Air Force, though, unfortunately not so much this year. But bottom line is, can Navy, who has traditionally struggled against Notre Dame, obviously 80-13-1, can they find success against this Notre Dame defense? Well, you look at the Notre Dame defense and you say probably not, right? The Fighting Irish are 10th in the nation in total defense. 279 yards per game. That's all they're allowing. They're giving up just 165.9 passing yards per game, and they're giving up just 113 rushing yards per game. They are stingy against the run, and I know the running offense that Navy brings with the option is a little bit different than just your traditional running game from another program. But bottom line is, Notre Dame has been stingy with their front seven. The most rushing yards they've allowed all year was 190 rushing yards in Northern Illinois in that upset loss. After that, the most they allowed was 134 to Louisville, who they beat in South Bend. They held solid rushing teams like Purdue to 38 yards on the day. They held Georgia Tech. I know they were beat up without Haynes King, but held Georgia Tech to just 64 rushing yards last week. And overall, the Fighting Irish, the most points they've allowed all year, despite losing to Northern Illinois earlier in the year, the most points they've allowed all year was 24, and that was in that win over Louisville. And that's a pretty solid team. I know they haven't lived up to the expectations, but still a solid team out of the ACC. So they haven't allowed more than 24 points. They've allowed no more than 190, which is well below the average for Navy. And if you take away that anomaly against Northern Illinois, the most they've allowed was 134, which is well below the average of Navy. Notre Dame's defense is elite. That is what has helped them win these games, and that could be what helps them get to the college football playoff. But they have to win this game if they want that to happen. When you take a look at Navy, they do have a solid defense, but Notre Dame, by far, is the best team that the midshipmen have seen all year long. No doubt about that. The other best team that you could argue that Navy has seen would be Memphis. And they did beat Memphis. They beat Memphis by 12, and it was a big-time shootout. But in that game against the Tigers, they allowed 44 points and 656 yards of offense, including 274 rushing yards on the day. On the year, Navy's given up over 165 rushing yards per game, over 224 passing yards per game. And I'm looking at this and saying, is Navy going to be able to hang with the athletes and the size and the talent and the speed that Notre Dame is bringing to the table? They were unable to do so last year. I know last year's different from this year, but Navy, again, hasn't really played anybody good this year. They've had a pretty easy schedule. You could say the same for Army. Relatively easy schedule playing in the American, a relatively weak American this year. So is Navy going to be up for the task? Are they going to be up for it in New Jersey? Can their defense find a way to slow down the bruising offensive line and the bruising running backs and Riley Leonard, for that matter, a dual-threat quarterback of Notre Dame? Ultimately, guys, you're going to say no. Right? Ultimately, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say this. It's not going to be like 42-3 last year. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Notre Dame's just going to walk in there and, blow the brakes off of Navy. I think this game is a lot more competitive, a lot closer. It could even be decided by one possession. We don't see that very often. 8 of the last 11 wins for Notre Dame have been by double digits. Maybe this is one that it comes down to the fourth quarter. I'm going to go out and say, though, I think Notre Dame wins by roughly 2 touchdowns. I just think while their offense hasn't been amazing, their defense has been. And while they haven't looked amazing week in and week out, they're still taking care of business. They took care of business against Louisville. They took care of business against Georgia Tech. They destroyed Stanford. Again, those aren't the biggest programs to brag about, but all of which you could argue are tougher teams than the teams that Navy beat. And I think we know Marcus Freeman, a great defensive-minded coach. He's going to go out there, sell out on the run, just like they did last year, just like they've done each of the last few years. And Navy's going to have to find a way to get creative to get points on the board, and that's a lot easier said than done. So give me the Fighting Irish to win this game by roughly 14 points in this game, roughly 10 to 14 points. Double-digit win again for Notre Dame. They keep their college football playoff hopes alive. Navy, in a way, is not done. This is a non-conference game for them, but obviously they will have a loss in the loss column, a loss on their record, and it will be a bit of an uphill battle for them if they want to try to keep those playoff hopes alive going forward. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks. Do not miss out on those, some of the best picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years, and currently doing so right now. So go sign up today. The link over on thegridironexpert.com. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.